Firstly, I want you to close your eyes. I want you to go back to your first memory of life. Go back to your childhood. I want you to think back on the first thing that you've ever remembered. Now, my first memory was triggered by rain. I love the sound of rain because it reminds me of my mother. It takes me back to where I was 3 years old and I'm sitting on this bed. I have my pajamas on and I'm bare feet, twiddling my toes as I'm listening to the raindrops falling on the roof of this caravan we live in. Now on this side, my mom and dad are louder than the rain. The next minute, my mother burst through the door out into the darkness. I jump off the bed and I run out behind her. I find her behind the house. She's sitting in a little bundle holding her face. So I walk to her. I take her hands away from her face. And there's rain. And blood. I put my arms around her neck and I say to her in her ear, Moenie huilie, Mommy. It's all okay, wees. Don't cry, Mom. It'll be okay. The next thing, a memory I'm going to share is I'm 9 years old. And we're living in this flat in Johannesburg. And my mom says to me, go and buy milk. And when you get down there and you see your auntie, tell her to come up immediately. So I run down, I get to the corner shop, I get the milk. And as I come out, I see my auntie and I relay the message and I run across the street, I get back up. As I open the door, I sense there's something wrong. As I pass the kitchen, I leave the milk, I go into the lounge and I notice my father through the window. He's standing on the balcony and as I walk in, there's something on the floor. And it's blood. There's blood spatters against the wall, even up to the roof. I find my mom on the side of the bed and she's laying there and she's holding her face. I felt anger inside of me because I wasn't there to protect her. I take her hands away from her face and the blood's coming from her mouth. There's blood from her nose. There's just blood. I hear my father's voice behind us and as he comes closer, I turn around and I push him against his chest and I say, los haar uit. Eendag as ek groot is, ek gaan jy sien wat maak ek. Leave her alone. One day when I'm big, you're going to see what I do. He just looks at me and he walks out. My mom gets up, goes to the bathroom and washes off the blood that she can. She comes out and she phones a friend to come pick us up and we go with the friend. When we get there, I go to my mom and I say, Mommy, ons hoef mos nie terug te gaan nie. Mom, we don't have to go back. Dis jou pa, my kind. That's your father, she says. Maar Mommy, ons kan enige plek gaan waar ons kan kry nie waar. En if Mommy kan seer maak, we can go anywhere. Somewhere where you won't find us, where he can't hurt you anymore. Dis jou pa, my kind. Hy sal verander. It's your father, she says. He'll change. 3 days later and we were back. And I was angry. So at the age of between 12 and 13, I was initiated into the gangs. I did a lot of stupid things in my life. So one day someone asked me, why did you do what you did? And I didn't have an answer for them then. But years later, I thought about it and I realized it was because I was angry. You see, anger was the only feeling I knew since childhood. And being in the gangs allowed me to vent my anger in certain ways without having to explain myself to anybody. It gave me a sense of control, That helpless feeling I had when my dad was abusing my mom, it was somehow numbed by the anger I felt and the things I could do or the power I could exercise while being in the gangs. Now, I'm a father now. And as men, we don't realize the long-term effects of violence in the home. The fact that it instills anger and frustration in the child should be regarded with a great amount of seriousness. The damage it causes, and the greatest damage of it being an unforgiving person. Now, forgiveness can only come through communication. And for years, I walked around in unforgiveness and I enslaved myself. I wasted so much time holding on to grief and anger. See, this year I did this play called Just Men. And at the opening night I had invited a few close friends and family members. I wanted to invite my father, but I first invited his brother to come and watch, and then he would decide if he would bring my dad. After the show we sat down and we talked about it. He said that the play had brought back a lot of memories for him, and one memory in particular he said was, you were still in school and I was just born at the time. So he comes home and he greets everyone and he comes into the room where my mom and I are, and when he sees her, he goes back out. He goes to his mom and he asks her, Mommy, wat het met Esther gebeur? Mom, what happened to Esther? His mom reply is, a perd het haar geskop. A horse kicked her. You see, my dad had beat my mom so bad, it looked as though a horse had kicked her. And I remember that anger building up inside of me, and I wanted to beat my dad at that moment so that he could feel what he had put her through. My dad never came to watch my play. You see, he believes that he's never done anything wrong. He refuses to acknowledge the issue. Now, as men, we need to realize that we are human. Our past does not determine our future, and that we can choose not to make the same mistakes of our fathers. In order for us to heal, we need to know that we have feelings, that we can be vulnerable. We need to communicate and get in touch with ourselves. Now, I communicated for the first time this year when I was in the process of the production of Just Men, where a safe space was created, where I could open up and be vulnerable. I remember the peace I felt when I faced that dark, deep emotions inside of me, and it was empowering. So I call on men to find a safe space where you can share and talk about your feelings and truly get in touch with yourself. You see, rain, I love the sound of rain. Now, the rain that I'm talking about is those loving words that come from your heart. And the more we speak, the stronger the rain falls, and it feeds that dry ground, the ground that is dried by hurt and anger. And the more we speak from our hearts, the stronger the rain falls, and it creates rivers that run into dams of healthy relationships, healthy families, healthy communities. Now, I only knew anger, but I now realize that I have a lot more emotions inside of me. I feel love, I feel joy, I feel compassion, I feel empathy, I feel pleasure, and the list goes on. Now, as a man, in order to heal, we need to acknowledge all those feelings. And when I realized that and I could tell the difference between them, I could then process, I could express, and I could communicate. You see, we need to get to that point where we know who we are. We need to find that feelings and find that inner self. So don't wait. Stand up and go to your wife, fiance, your girlfriend, your child, and speak from your heart. Be man enough to be vulnerable. Communicate. And don't wait. Do it today, because tomorrow might be too late. Let those loving words flow from your heart, and let it rain creating rivers that feed that soil of the family so that it can bloom. Let those rivers run into dams and create a loving environment for everyone that you care for. Be man. Be vulnerable and let it rain. Thank you.